No, they think that I just come in there and look for knockoffs, and that's not the case. I'm actually a sharp, smart fighter.
So, well, wait, I'm here. Who wanted to fight me?
I really don't care who's in front of me. I don't feel like no fighters beat me.
My goal is to demolish everybody, to be honest. Everybody that's in my way. The pinnacle to any weight division is to have all the belts, all of the titles.
Welcome to Bodywork. Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. It feels so good to be back. I hope everybody is having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening, man. I thought today would be another good day to talk about boxing. And I believe, I think this one is going to be packed full of fruits and veggies, not that Reggie. Even though we do specialize in that fact-based content, we do have our opinions, but a lot of the time they be based on the facts. And I challenge anybody. I always say my whole thing is stop me when I'm lying. So the link is there, and if you come correct. If you click that link, come correct. So if you're gonna challenge me, and I welcome a challenge, but if you're gonna challenge me, you better come correct and have everything intact and in order. Because I'm not salacious, man. I don't base everything on opinion. I formulate my opinion based on the data, the patterns, and everything that I've actually seen. But I do gotta tell y'all that gaslighting is at an all-time high. And it's been a while since I went over that. The modern definition of gaslighting is a psychological manipulation technique in which a person tries to convince someone that their reality is true. It is a tactic often used by narcissists to gain control of their intended target. And a lot of y'all have been corralled by a handful of narcissists online. We got people that we got all kind of people. We got narcissists, we got politicians, we got sadomasochists, psychopaths. We got a little bit of everybody, man. We got compulsive liars. We got a little bit of everybody online, man. And ironically enough, online is where we have to come really to get our boxing talk and hear other people's opinions. I like hearing other people's thoughts and ideas, but I can always tell who's playing the game and what game they're playing, man. Especially when their thoughts and opinions don't really be what they call mercurial. They don't really change along with the information that's coming out. And when you're staunch or whatever, like, yeah, you're going to like who you like. You're going to defend them. You might spare somebody, but when people still harp on the same thing, no matter what, and they continue to tell you things and harp on certain viewpoints and press the envelope on certain things, knowing that that's a lie, knowing that they're omitting things, that's a form of gaslighting. So I got to talk about it. I know it's been a while since I've done the gaslighting, but ultimately, when we get around to the meat and potatoes, which is one Mr. Brian Norman Jr., that's gonna be the meat and potatoes. But let me see who we got. Cookie Monster, Bodywork. Salute, Cookie Monster. Boom, boom. Salute. Boom, boom. You said mic check, 1 2 1 2. Sounding good as always. I appreciate that. I like my mic check, but yeah, good to see everybody in the building. I see AC in the building. And I'm just gonna go through my little thing like I always do, y'all. But I'm gonna get through some housekeeping. And it's pretty packed. It's pretty packed here. So let me do my thing. Okay. Housekeeping. I never really given my thoughts on TKO, right? And this whole thing that Dana White is trying. I know everybody was all hype about, him getting his cojones whacked by Mr. Sean Zettel about the Ali. And for me, I never really indulged in it. Like that's another thing that for a moment people were trying to shove the idea, because you got to think that, remember where this came from. This stemmed from what I told y'all, and I got to show y'all, because I notice whenever I say something about this guy right here, whenever I bring up something about this guy right here, whenever I bring up something about this guy, I get some kind of weird comment, or some kind of, like, somebody come in my comment section and say something weird when I actually been telling y'all who this guy was. I might have spelled it several different ways, but I've been trying to tell y'all who this guy was. And ultimately, this is what I said. And I think this illustration went over a lot of people's head when I said he was a Trojan horse. A lot of people don't really do their homework, or they have, they went through the 6th grade like a couple times, or they never really made it out of high school or whatever. Or they fell asleep when it was time because, they had to act like they were asleep because they didn't want to read in front of the class. I understand. But I've been trying to tell y'all. So when I made that illustration, I said the condom pop and all that, that was an illusion. I was alluding to the fact that this man was a Trojan horse. He had that blue magic where he got you smacked that first time, and you've been trying to chase the dragon ever since, and you didn't realize what you were getting yourself into by following this guy, but he wound up being a Trojan horse. And I always asked, it was nothing personal, but I always said, and I see people trying to run with, with my stuff, and it's cool, because the power of influence is really, it's cool. It's cool. But I was always asking this question about Eddie and Turkey. And I was saying, are they making American boxing great again? And I was one of the first people to actually say, listen, I have a right to be selfish because I'm an American and I love boxing. I have an Eagles tattoo on my shoulder, and I was a diehard football fan, and that was my first love because I actually played it semi-pro. That was my first love. I put all of that down to where even when my team is playing, sometimes I go live because I love boxing. I don't cheat on boxing. You know what I'm saying? That's all I talk about. So as an American boxing fan, I start saying, watch this and watch that. And as a business person, a person that's in the business, owning and running a business, trying to get it off the ground and trying to do everything, procure contracts, and been working for myself and all that, I look at everything from a business perspective. And I asked this question a long time ago. What are y'all going to do if you was at a job or a place of employment and everybody outsourced the work? I was like, that's why I always say, man, a lot of times in this boxing thing, we have our personal lives and we have our ideas and we're all business oriented and all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? But then when we come online, we either dumb down or act like how the real world work. It don't work inside of our boxing conversations. We become whatever persona it is. I always say, Michael Rogers, you know my government, you know what I'm saying? The channel was Bodywork, but I don't forget who I am. You don't have to worry about getting a different person, like the same person you see at the grocery store or, you know what I'm saying, out and about at the Chinese store or in the bookstore. It's going to be the same old me. So that's what I was always asking. And I always told y'all that this guy was a Trojan horse. So I really didn't know. I was never interested in nothing that the people from TKO or I wasn't interested in what Dana and them had, because I knew that it was under the guise and it was under affiliation with Turkey Al-Sheikh, and I pretty much knew and I staked the claim in what he was doing. You know, he came in with his big bag of money and he was trying to buy everything and woo everything. And yeah, he put on some spectacles. You know what I'm saying? He put on some spectacles. His twin, salute. He put on some spectacles and some things for us to watch, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying? Like, he the one who inducted this Dana stuff and all that. So I never really cared. But the way I think about it is, I'm like, look, man, we got American boxing. It has its laws. You know what I'm saying? PBC went through their thing where they had to transition. You know, they had to transition over from Showtime over to Prime. And, you know, they had some things that was on Fox as well. And they had to go through that little period where they was getting the dates and, you know, trying to line up everything and make it work. So it had this little lull in the action or whatever, but they still was able to put on fights and all this. You know, right now, Top Rank is experiencing kind of like the same thing where everything ended with ESPN or whatever. But there was a dark horse that I talked about a long time ago. And I think that they came in and they carved out a niche that boxing truly needed. And that niche was pro box. That niche was actually pro box, man. And I'm like, listen, man, like, cause if you ever seen that movie or that show, that series Spartacus, you show that movie or that series Spartacus, or when you think about this whole underground, like when they have underground fighting and all that, like when you have to go down, like I would even say almost like the D League, but it's not really, it's kind of similar, but like when you have to go down and get it out, like in battle rap. Like if a commercial rapper go down in battle rap, they do their thing, they can gain more eyeballs, they can actually conquer a whole different market, you know, and then come back up in the ranks of regular. But this is still boxing, I mean, in that it's still rules, and when they yell ding ding ding, that's still a real fight. I had the pleasure to actually ask Blair the Flair Cobbs a couple questions, and I remember one time we asked about pro box, and he basically said it's brutal. There are no light touches. So I think that, you know, I was never focused because when it's not mainstream boxing and, you know what I'm saying, primetime TV, Saturday night boxing, occasional Friday night, we already have something else that's been emerging as one of the best things ever. It complements mainstream boxing so well that mainstream boxing almost kind of got to look back or got to keep its eye on it. Why? Because it's produced a lot of stars. You know what I'm saying? People used to scoff and laugh like, oh man, he on pro box, and then look what happened. Lamont Roach was affiliated with it. Angelo Leo was affiliated with it. The resurgence of Erickson Lubin, he was affiliated with it. We got a guy in Najee Lopez. He is really like, you know, he was just now, they was looking at him. Beterbiev was actually looking at him. Beterbiev, however you want to say it, was actually looking at him amongst, you know, a potential opponent. You know, he just got it on with Calvin Hot Sauce Henderson, and he pretty much sparked him. They had a potential fight of the year candidate with Moreno and Garcia here recently. So they sparked TKO. And as far as the money, I gotta think that they getting, as far, I don't like getting into the money and all of that. I really don't, unless I have to, unless it's necessary. But I mean, as far as taking care of fighters and all of that, we already got like our alternative to what the mainstream is, even though it's the same thing, even though those guys are like, it's starting to become real hot. So pro box will eat them alive, continue to eat them alive. I think that they're not just going to be competing with mainstream, and everybody's getting all excited and getting their panties in a bunch because they like, oh, all this stuff with TKO can only do but so much. They can drive people in and they can get people to come in and sign, but they're at the mercy of people coming in, taking a gander and taking a chance on that. It's just a small group of people that's going to funnel into that. Whoever they can coerce or convince is going to funnel into that. But anybody that had any eye on what was going on with them guys like Ngannou and John Jones and all of the things that was surrounding the money and what they was getting paid, the interviews that they had with Ngannou alone, everything that he was going through, and the things that he was facing when he actually made that little crossover. You can take 1 second and go back and look at the interviews, and you will know that, okay, well, let's fast forward this league, let's age the league a little bit and fast forward. You're going to be looking at athletes that's doing that, who might, you know, rise above the ranks, just like a Spartacus, get all the way to the top, and then they're going to feel just how Ngannou felt, or like John Jones felt, or any of them guys who was not getting the coin that they actually wanted for all that abuse and to be ruled and regulated over. I think that they have too many things to contend with, and it's really not anything of note or substance for me to really waste none of my time with. Why? Because it was started by the guy who I said was a Trojan horse. You know what I'm saying? It's just that simple. So that's my housekeeping, man. I don't really have a big opinion of TKO. You know what I'm saying? That is my opinion. I think that Pro Box eats them a lot. Give me my Pro Box. You know what I'm saying? I'll take Pro Box all day, every day over something like that. You know, I guess boxing junkies, you know what I'm saying? I guess you will actually look and see, because you gotta look at the product. So yeah, the boxing junkie in me is probably gonna be like, all right, let me look at it. Let me just lay eyeballs on what they got going on just to see, so I will be able to speak. Unlike some of these people who be talking about boxing and fights that just happened, and they be like, "Oh, I didn't really watch the fight. I didn't see it." But no. That means you shouldn't have an opinion on it. So I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm gonna have to take a gander so I can have an opinion on it and I can speak educated about it. But I did gaff about a TKO league and Dana and all that. I don't even want to get worked up with it. They have too many things they're going to compete in. And if they do happen to beat the odds and do that, like, that'll be a good problem to have if they were actually able to start it and build it and sustain it and make it rival anything that's going on with PBC, anything that's going on with Golden Boy, anything that's going on with Top Ring, anything that's going on with Matchroom, and they still had to deal with the emerging Pro Box and then the other fledgling things that they had going on with the Trillas and the, you know, the Black Primes and all of that kind of stuff as well. So I think that it's a long time coming, and it's something we really don't have to worry to be distracted with. Okay? That's my opinion on that. Let's move on to Tim Bradley. You know, I've been cooking on Tim Bradley, man. I think Tim Bradley has been the gift that keeps on giving here lately, man. I'm just like, I don't know what happened with Tim Bradley. I'm actually starting to think that Provodnikov fight, I think that fight actually did a little bit more damage than what we may have realized, you know, and it's really starting to show, just like a lot of people, a lot of football players go through this when they've been getting hit in the head or sustained head injuries. Now, I'm not making light of this. I'm just saying that it do something to your brain, man. Sometimes it shows up a little bit late. You have a little bit more damage and you don't really know what you be talking, and you might in some cases sound like a late bloomer. But I'm gonna have to start giving out an award, and it's called the Captain Obvious Award. Hill and Honey. Salute Bodywork. Salute Hill and Honey. I'm gonna have to start giving out an award. So Tim Bradley, of course, he's going to be the first recipient. Why are you giving him the Captain Obvious Award? Because Tim Bradley recently came out, you know what I'm saying, and he did 2 videos, right? I broke down the last 2 videos he did, 2 little shorts or whatever, and it's almost like he comes out, he's doing his best showbiz impersonations, and he do a whole lot of yeah, and I guess when you make your eyes big and you sound goofy and you look like you just came off the plantation and you had that plantation hat, you know what I'm saying, those are like the boonie caps we used to wear when we was like over in Saudi or whatever, that protect your neck from the sun, give you a little shade. He come out with those and he talk all yeah, and he say yeah all loud and make his eyes all big, and he laugh and he get real loud, and I mean, it's like, what kind of act? It's like, who are you trying to impersonate? And like here lately, man, it's been a little funny actually watching, a little odd actually watching him. But what he did was he basically came out and he said that Shakur don't need Tank. Okay, Captain Obvious, but we gotta listen to what he said, y'all. We gotta actually go through this, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, man, these guys, and I try to respect the Hall of Famers, right? But they always give, man. They just give, and I can't help but receive. I can't help but receive this because he's been giving me a lot of like pretty much alley oops, like layups, slam dunks here lately, man. And I can't help myself when it comes to it, but you know how it is. Gotta protect myself at all times. You know what I'm saying? Because we do have some people that's not really gonna like what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? But this is for fair use, such as criticism. The same criticism that they be having, right? The same criticism that they be having for everybody else. This is what that is. Such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. I'm not infringing. You know, I don't want to misinterpret. I don't want to misquote. I don't want to misuse anything that he said. I want you all to hear it straight from the horse's mouth so we can actually listen to the Hall of... This is a Hall of Famer. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair. So we actually going to listen to what he actually had to say. Let's see here. So this is Tim talking about how Tank, like how Shakur don't need Tank, right?
Hey, real quick, I want to talk to you guys about Shakur Stevenson and why Shakur doesn't need Tank. You know, you already know the perception of Tank by many of the boxing pundits and the fans of boxing. You know, you already know how they feel about Tank Davis when it comes to, you know, I hear people talk about his resume. I hear people talking about, well, he's only one division champion. He really only won one belt. You know, the guys that he's faced, you know, he hasn't faced a top tier elite fighter, so on and so forth. So with that being said,
all of that's gaslighting. You know what I'm saying? All that's gaslighting.
Why even want to entertain a fight with Tank Davis? I mean,
this is his renderance of when somebody trying to do reverse psychology. This is what he's really trying to do right here.
How much credit are you going to really get, Shakur, besides the money, right?
He just, that's why I said, man, that Provatnikov, he said, how much credit would Shakur get for facing Tank if he were to beat Tank? How much credit would he get if he were to beat him?
That's what Tank brings. He brings interest. He brings a lot of fans in the seats, you know. But as far as legacy goes, if people are holding Tank at a very low status, well, do you need him? Do you really need him? How you doing, man? Good morning. Do you really need him? Because I personally don't think that you need him, you know. Shakur, you should be here to create your own legacy.
Wow, Captain Obvious. Okay, he said, Shakur, you should be here to create your own legacy. So I guess for people, because you know, Shakur said pick a side. Even though I still am a big Shakur fan. It's just I said that when it come down to him and Tank, give me Tank. That's how it is with pretty much most of the people that, you know what I'm saying? There's only a couple people I said that make me nervous, even though I'm pretty much going to pick Tank. You know what I'm saying? Out of all the people I rock, I'm going to pick them. Like if the weight classes, if it's, you know what I'm saying? That's what I was going to do. So it was a point in time when everybody was sitting up there asking the questions of Shakur, like, well, how come it seems like every time you get in front of a camera, you got to use Tank or you got to promote, like Tank got his own thing going. What you got going? Because a lot of us, we didn't come to be fans of yours, Shakur, because of an affiliation with you and Tank. We were getting on Devin, like people like myself. I was getting on people like Devin for doing the same damn thing. And then came Shakur a little bit later with the affiliation or attachment to him. So when we were saying, hey man, Shakur, do your own thing. You got your own legacy. We were hating. We were protecting fighters. We were doing, now Captain Obvious comes around. Captain Obvious, the Hall of Famer, who should have been telling Shakur to do his own thing and worry about his own legacy. Now he's just now coming around.
You know, you're about the competition. You are about that bread as well. And I think it's important for you to really look at the landscape, man, of boxing and see where your big money fights are. You know, besides Tank Davis, as you know,
Salute, no evidence.
you hear through the grapevine. I think he even told you on X that he's contemplating retirement after his Jake Paul fight. You know, you're getting ready, hopefully, if Teofimo Lopez signs the contract, Shakur, to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, who has accomplished quite a bit in the sport, man, and has been in the ring with some legends, Josh Taylor, also Lomachenko. I think that type of fight makes sense. You know, going up to 140 pounds, getting another strap, beating.
So for those, again, Captain Obvious, for those of us who were saying, Shakur, go to 140. And I wasn't just limiting it because I keep the same energy. I wasn't just limiting it to one fighter. I was saying, oh, yeah, you can go up there with Sabro Matias. You know what I'm saying? You can go up there because Devin was there at the time. I was like, yeah, because that's pretty much where you belong. We were called haters. Oh, you protecting Tank. Oh, you don't want him to stay. It's like, no, we were saying because of your size and how you are, like, you should go there. Now Captain Obvious is telling them that what was really obvious, that he should have done it. And yes, it does make sense for him to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, especially because it's been over a year and some change since he did that interview, and he been said he was bigger than T.O. Because T.O. was like, he's a little bigger than Tank, but T.O. ain't all that big either. You know what I'm saying? But Shakur is bigger than him, and Devin is bigger than them all.
The quote-unquote, the Ring Magazine champion, or considered the best number one fighter at 140 pounds. You beat him, but I also foresee me, if I was your manager, a throwdown with Ryan Garcia.
Now a throwdown with Ryan Garcia. So once again, like, why wouldn't Tank fought Ryan Garcia, Captain Obvious? Why wouldn't Tank fought Ryan Garcia? It wasn't nothing. Here you go. Oh no, I'm stealing some of my own thunder. Latch Puma skills, salute. I'm stealing some of my own thunder for the next one, that Captain Obvious. So now he think that, hold on. What did he, hold on.
That, he's contemplating retirement after his Jake Paul fight. You're getting ready, hopefully, if Teofimo Lopez signs the contract, Shakur, to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, who has accomplished quite a bit in the sport, man, and has been in the ring with some legends, Josh Taylor, also Lomachenko. I think that type of fight makes sense. Going up to 140 pounds, getting another strap, beating the quote-unquote, the Ring Magazine champion, or considered the best number one fighter at 140 pounds. You beat him, but I also foresee me, if I was your manager, a throwdown with Ryan Garcia. He fought against Tank. He brings big money. How much?
See, that's my whole thing. I understand the T.O. play, but he just talked about Shakur being a legacy fight, and then he offers up Ryan, and the first thing he talk about is the money. He's talking about money. He's a big money fight. Not knowing what kind of headspace, knowing that Ryan supposedly cheated Devin enough to where he got that L removed. We don't know what kind of mindset he is. He just got beat by Rolly, and now he's saying after T.O. T.O. got beat, he ain't undefeated. He's saying he should go fight Ryan after that.
You gonna get as far as legacy goes? Not a whole lot. Ryan Garcia hasn't done much in the sport. However, that's a guy that
he hasn't done much. And he's talking to a legacy fighter telling him to go fight Ryan. That's why I say the standards be doubling.
Y'all had some words on social media. I don't know if y'all cool or not, but I think that'll be a great fight for you. Ryan Garcia. Even after his loss against Rolly Romero. That's a big money fight for you right there. I just feel like everybody and their mama's trying to chase Tank, and they feel that he's not right mentally, and you hear all the narratives and stuff that we the media and the fans create, but I just look, you got other guys that you can cook, man. That's just it. You got other guys that you can cook in and around your division, but that big money fight for you would be Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia, he come back, he fights someone, and you beat Teofimo Lopez, then you fight Ryan for that money. Makes sense to me. You can meet him at 144.
Now a catch weight. You can meet him. Now you can do a catch weight. You see how the standards be doubling? That's what I be trying to say. That's enough. That's enough for this one. But Captain Obvious pretty much talking about how he don't need Shakur don't need Tank. I'm like, duh, Captain Obvious. We've been telling Shakur that you don't have that. Don't gotta be the only name you say. It's more smoke out here. It's other things you can do. You can sell yourself or promote yourself or do other things other than be saying that guy's name. So now Tank say get it out the mud, and now y'all feelings hurt. Now the man talk about retirement. Now y'all really got to figure out what else y'all going to do. Why? Because that was your whole plan. That was everybody's plan. Just attach your name to Tank. Attach your name to Tank, and then because the fight don't fall through, then you can fight whoever. Like when we was getting ready to get a Joe Cordina coming up from 130. Nobody said nothing about this moving up stuff and bringing somebody up. Nobody was talking about that. So that's the first thing Captain Obvious said, man. Like, oh, now Captain Obvious is talking about how Shakur don't need Tank. Duh. What's the other thing that he said? And his revelation of the green print. Listen to this. This is why I said, man, I think that Provodnikov, man, I think that fight was a little more damaging than what we really we didn't know. But listen to this. Listen to this.
Oh yeah, Tim Destorm Bradley. You already know the rest. Hey, I got something to tell y'all. Yeah, it's a little might be a little sensitive, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
See, why is he talking like that? Why is he talking? And if you could see him, he got his eyes bugged out like Showbiz. Why is he even talking like that? Listen to this.
Oh yeah, Tim Destorm Bradley. You already know the rest. Hey, I got something to tell y'all. Yeah, it's a little might be a little sensitive, but I'm gonna say it anyway, cause the truth is the truth, right? But you wanna get you wanna become famous in this game. You know how many people say, ain't no remedy, Tim. Ain't no remedy, ain't no formula. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, ain't no formula how to become a superstar in this game, this, that, and third. Yeah, there is. Oh, there is. Oh, for damn sure there is. You know what you gotta do? Especially the brothers. Listen up. You gotta take out all the Mexicans. Can I say that again? You gotta fight all the Mexicans. Yeah.
We in October. It's October 2025. And Tim Bradley is just now having a revelation of what Floyd called the green print. This man is just now having his own revelation of what which was always known or formerly known as the green print. They're like, the same thing that everybody crucified Floyd Mayweather for doing. The same thing that everybody crucified Tank under the tutelage of Floyd.
Yeah, that's how you come big in this sport. You wanna know why? Go back, look at Manny Pacquiao's career. How did he become so damn big? Did he have fans, only Filipino fans? Did he have Mexican fans? Who did he fight? all the top Mexican fighters. Yeah, he fought them all. Not once, twice. That's Manny Pacquiao. Different breed. Yeah. What about Floyd Mayweather? Damn. When did Floyd Mayweather become big as he is? When he beat who? Oscar De La Hoya. But who did he beat to become champion? Gennaro Hernandez? Damn, he fought against Castillo as well. Didn't he fight against Marquez? Yeah, he gave me the blueprint to beat Marquez. Yeah, he did. Yeah. And he fought on what? Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day. Yeah. He fought on all those dates. Coming out with sombrero and all of that.
You should see him with this boonie cap on too.
The sombrero. You know, man, look. You know, the Shakurs of the world, the Keishans of the world. You know, all these guys, man. You know what I'm saying? Especially the brothers. The Pitbull Cruises of the world.
Now Pitbull is listed as one of them guys. But remember, I'm gonna stop it right there. Because it ain't even no use and no need to let Captain Obvious keep stating the motherfucking obvious. The green print been a thing, but when Tank did it with Isoc Pitbull Cruz, oh man, all he is a come forward Mexican fighter, man. Oh come on, man. Oh, Ryan Garcia, oh man, there you go, man. That's what he is, man. Watch, I bet you, cause they used to make jokes. I remember a guy that Professor Xavier created, one of his mutants. His name is Buttfuck Tuberculosis, right? That's his name. That's what I call him anyway. I remember for years this man kept saying, you know what he kept saying when it came down to Tank? He kept saying, oh man, all Tank gonna do is he probably gonna wait, because he was calling him William Zapata. He used to call him William Zapata all the time. Oh man, he just gonna wait for William Zapata, flat-footed, high volume puncher, Mexican. Well, that's right up Tank alley. Blah blah blah. But when Shakur fought Zapata, it was wonderful. It was excellent. It was almost just like the whole thing with the Frank Martin thing. How when Shakur fought Frank Martin, everybody was getting ready to. Everybody, including myself, was on board and wanted and loved to see that fight. Then Frank Martin pulled out, and we were like, "What the hell?" And then when Tank fought him, everybody, oh, here we go again. Even though that was the slick black fighter. But when we go back to Leo Santa Cruz, arguable Hall of Famer, and not to admit, like people be forgetting this as well. Abner Mares actually retired. They say eye injury and whatever, but we know he was getting ready to get his career upended by motherfucking Tank. But everybody was hating on him for Leo Santa Cruz, even though everybody wanted to see Mr. Gary Russell fight Leo Santa Cruz. Remember when Mr. Gary Russell went and put his arm around Leo Santa Cruz's dad and all that? Everybody was with that. But they didn't want to see Tank. Remember when Tank went up there to 140 and he fought Mario Barrio? Oh, here you go, man. There you go, man. Right up your alley. Another Mexican fighter. It was demonized. Now here go Captain Obvious restating some shit that Floyd Mayweather been knew. Exercise. It was proven. What did we just get with Undisputed with Bud and Canelo, and why was that so big? And he's gonna go on to say that, yeah, with William, he's gonna go on to say Shakur and fighting William Zapata, and he's also gonna talk about Canelo and Bud and what happened. And he's gonna say that's why Bud got so big. No. We're not gonna sit up here and let Tim do it. That's why I stopped it before he even said it. Bud got super lit when he beat Errol Spence. Like, so we're not even going we're not even going to negate and we're not even going to like undermine Earl to that extent. It's been happening for far too long, man. His interviews, his cachet, his stock, his shit jumped like Jordan once he beat Errol Spence. He etched his name in cement. He locked it, stamped it, wiped out all reasonable doubt with the Canelo win. He got lit after he dusted Errol Spence off. He cemented himself after doing the Canelo. That answered any question mark. That answered any whatever, any hesitation, any guesswork, any reservation. That's what Bud did. But they don't want to give Errol Spence that. But Captain Obvious just got a revelation of the green print. That's why he get the Captain Obvious award. I'm almost done. Because we gotta this is gonna be a touchy. This one right here is gonna be a touchy subject, man. We're gonna get right on. We're gonna get down to the meat and potatoes. This one gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings, y'all. The truth about Boots. The truth about Boots, man. This is a very, very touchy subject. Why? Because I'm a Boots fan, man. I'm not saying like I'm a Boots fan. Like I actually have more issues with the things that Shakur has been doing more than I have with Boots. My only thing with Boots is, what I'm starting to realize when it comes down to Boots is that I told y'all a long time ago that when it come down to Devin, he has a beehive. I said, man, Boots has a beehive. Whereas you can't say anything. Like the same dialogue. It's the same thing like when I was trying to have dialogue about anybody that was like with B&B or with Bud, like when everybody want to be so critical of everybody else, and then when you talk about one of them fighters, everybody have a conniption and act like you hating and whatever. You can't be as critical as they are when it comes down to those guys. Boots falls in that category. I told y'all, I call them untouchables. There are some people where you can't really have honest dialogue about certain guys, and that's why they would be on the smaller tail of the end of guys when I'd actually discuss them. Why? Because when you state the truth and you state what's obviously happened, people will say that you're hating or you're going out of your way. Well, I have some Teflon things. I have some Teflon Don type things, that I'm going to actually speak on to prove that how fallacious that is. A lot of people actually look at Boots, man, and they say, man, he got all the skills in the world. And to be honest, I say this all the time. It's not really nothing that you can dislike Boots for. So it's not really in the people that actually create these narratives and put these things down and actually promote these things that's going on out here on YouTube, right? What they don't understand is that like they're not doing themselves any justice, especially when they want to debate and talk about these guys or even defend them. Why? Because they turn into the very fan bases that they despise when it comes down to certain things. And what do you mean, Mike? If you listen, I'm gonna tell you, right? Listen, Boots made a decision. He made a decision, much like, let me jog your memory now. A lot of people can actually sit up here and look at Devin, right? Devin was always attached to his name to Tank, saying he wanted that fight, whatever. And that's how I even came to know Devin. I didn't know who the fuck Devin was until he started saying he wanted to fight Tank. And I'm like, who is this guy? And where did he fight? Whatever. He had left Showtime, and who did he go sign with? He went inside with Matchroom. Well, at the time, where was all the smoke? At 35. Loma, where was Loma? Loma was with Top Rank. Where was T.O.? T.O. was with Top Rank. Where was Tank? Tank was with PBC. He went and signed with Matchroom. That's different than when Demetrius Andre said, you know what? He left a Jamel Charlo fight on the he walked away from a Jamel Charlo. He went and got with Eddie Hearn. Everybody was saying, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. Why? Because at that point in time, they had Canelo. They had Triple G. It made sense for him to move across the street. Let's fast forward. Let's go back to recent history when it comes down to Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson was talking all this, I want to be undisputed, this and this and that. Right? He was over there on Top Rank, right? Across the street on one side, there was a Tank. He was over there with PBC, had the WBA. Where was all the rest of the belts? On Top Rank, what did he do? He went over the match room. What else did he do? He did a deal with Eddie and told Eddie, do not even try to negotiate a fight with Tank. And so it's crazy how Tank fans can understand that. Well, as a Tank fan, shit, if you go sign with Matchroom and then you tell Eddie don't even try to negotiate, obviously you don't want a Tank fight. Regardless of what you say, your actions show. You didn't really, because you can say, because they go all into this whole ordeal with him running up on Loma and them talking outside the fight, but you were over there on Top Rank. They offered you a 5-fight deal. At the time, it was either going to be Baranchak or Navarrete, the winner of that. The belts was on your side of the street. You had a belt, Loma had a belt, and the one that, the Navarrete, Baranchak, Keyshawn, the same one that that Abdullah Mason and Sam Norris going to fight. All of them was over there on your side. What did you do? You went and signed with Matchroom, who didn't have anybody. Only person he had was Andy Cruz. And that was supposed to be your brother who you wouldn't fight. That was supposed to be your brother's work, Andy Cruz. So as a fan, how can we notice these things when you go sign with Eddie, right? We understand that when you go sign with Eddie and you go get with Matchroom, what are you doing? You going to the other side. They say you ducking smoke. They say that you're going to go run and hide. So let's look at it. Nobody knew Boots was going to move up. Everybody thought that the man went undisputed. I know I did. I went to the Man and Stanionis fight. I was going to put the footage up here and show y'all the stadium or whatever, because I had to go back and look, because where I was sitting at, I could look to my left and I seen some seats. But like when I go back at it, I was like, yeah, man. I said he got a nice little crowd. I wanted to see for myself. I said he got a nice little following. It was a nice little event. I had to go see for myself. So I'm a supporter. I'm just looking at everything like, hold on, okay. We didn't know he was going to move up. We thought he was going to go ahead and run through the, you know what I'm saying? He was going to go ahead and clean up. Think about it. You can say he was a little bit more than halfway there. Why? Because he had his IBF, he got the WBA, and then he got the ring. The only thing left was the WBO and the WBC. And with Mario Barrios having just fought Manny Pacquiao, if you go ahead, get it on with Brian Norman, you would have 3 of the Infinity Stones and plus the ring. Mario Barrios would have been hard pressed to not come on in after that. So you was a little bit more than halfway there, and pop goes the Weasel. You move up to 54. Not only do you move up to 54, but you do the same thing that everybody who was a Bud fan, like all of the people who was like anti-Bud or saying, well, they didn't like Bud or whatever, when they say, oh, well, if it was all this friction between him and Bob Arum, because remember when Bob was saying he was a sucker for the right hand, and he was saying he lost all this money and all this and all that, people were dazed and confused when he re-signed with Top Ring. So lo and behold, Boots re-signed with Eddie. And when we look at the history of it, it's like, it's by the numbers. It's like, okay, you made a choice to go over there and mess with Buddy. But when they run down on his resume and they say, oh man, who is he for? They say, okay, 2 Karens. You know what I'm saying? You did get the Monte Stanionis, but he was with who? PBC. Who was Mario Barrios with? Who was Jamel Charlo with? Where's Lubin? Like, where's everybody that's in the division? Like, who? The only other one that's just weird because Shakur had Andy Cruz over there with Matchroom, right? And Matchroom also had Conor Benn. But when you went to go sign with Matchroom, there was never no talks about Boots and Conor Benn, which makes all the sense. Y'all was both welterweights. So before Conor Benn got popped, Like when he was on his killing spree, because he did get an Algeria, cleaned him up very nice before that old egg situation or whatever you wanted. The thing that he got cleared of when the alleged juice situation. There was never no talks about Boots and Conor Benn. Now before then, everybody was chasing certain people. Everybody wanted to get a little bit of Adrian Broner. Guess what? In an unorthodox, uncanny way, Blair the Fair was the first one in his uncanny way. He was the first one to get his hands on AB out of the young, because even Devin was talking about getting it. They all wanted to get a piece of AB. And I was knocking all of them because I said, oh, y'all dinosaur hunting now. Y'all want that low-hanging fruit. But they were saying, nah, that's a name. It'll be great. It'll be this. It'll be that. There was never no talk for Boots and Conor Benn, even though they both was welterweights, flirting with going to 54. And they set up a freak show between Conor Benn and Chris Eubanks. But never no talks. So we was like, at a minimum, because we used to talk ad nauseum about this. We would say, man, Boots, why come Eddie don't ever talk about Boots and Conor Benn? They're like, oh, well, of course he ain't going to fight him. That's business. That's basic business. And I'm like, well, business for who? Wouldn't that give Boots international stardom? Wouldn't that show, like, why wouldn't you let them? Okay, anyway, we moved on. So the 54, who were we talking about? Because if you were going to go over there and you was going to mess with Turkey, then who are you talking about? A Madrimov? Madrimov just got beat by Bud and got beat by Virgil. That'd have been okay. A Boychuk? We seen what wound up happening with Boychuk, but it wasn't a Boychuk. And then the other move is this. You dropped all your leverage. Most of the time when people have belts and they move up, so these are things that where it's like, as a fan, we're asking. So this is my question. When I ask people, I say, hold on, man, like, if we supporting Boots and we want to get behind him, how do you justify these things? Why? Because we understand the whole, when it comes down to Devin and him going over the matchroom, it's like, yeah, you ran over the matchroom. You understand that very well. When it come down to Shakur and the situation he was facing with the 5-fight deal with all 3 belts over there in Top Rank and the one outside of Top Rank being Tank over there at PBC, you don't sign with PBC, you don't stay where you at and take the deal where you was going to get a unification. Not to mention, there was no pressure for him to fight Keyshawn. He ran over there to Matchroom. So how come when Boots decide he wants to up and go over there to Matchroom and sign with Matchroom and then he re-ups, why are the same things not being applied, especially when you had a dime in your bed? AC put it best when he said, man, it was like having a dime in the room, in the telly, already laid up, and she said, when you get off work, all I want you to do is pound me. Brian Norman said, hey, listen, man, I'm about to have this shot of gin. As soon as it's over, I fight on the 19th, because it was Juneteenth. I fight on Juneteenth. On the 20th, we can do it. And verbally, you got my agreement. All I want you to, when you get off work, I want you to come to the telly and pound me. And then you go out of town. That's not a legit question to ask. In the same vein of which Shakur and making a move over the Matchroom with his fans, you can never hold their feet to the fire and answer that question. Like in the same move where all of the belts was on your side. Now you was a legacy fighter. You want all of the belts. You want to be undisputed. We can't ask why you went over the Matchroom when it was 2 other belts on Top Rank and 1 other belt over there with PBC and you didn't do no business with none of them. Devin wanting to fight Tank at the time, running over there to Matchroom when T.O. was over there with Top Rank at the time. So how come it's different when it come down to Boots going over to Matchroom? And then it's the whole, oh, well, he's too big and he's massive. And okay, well, if he's too big and he's massive, they were saying, okay, well, go. I didn't understand it when they were saying just go up to 160. It's right for the taking. There was no TO fight. There was no, and I was with that because I said, man, that'll be another 40 moving up. I just wanted him to go ahead and get it on with Brian Norman. Once you get it on with Brian Norman, the winner of that, either he gonna take the two straps that you got, or you gonna take the third strap and you gonna put all the pressure on Mario Barrios. So as a fan, why can't we ask that question? Why is it so much of a different conversation? Why are people being called haters and all that other stuff? And recently I heard like the dumbest thing ever about how you can't even mention the low ball thing. Well, listen guys, since you want to talk boxing, if you can't mention the low ball thing, then that means like anything that pertains to Eddie, that's off limits. That's the same conundrum that I used to bang the D-Hive, like people that was in the D-Hive, I used to bang their heads up against the lockers in the locker room whenever this conversation came up, because I said, hold on, y'all demonized Eddie Hearn when it came down to the whole negotiations between Anthony Joshua being represented by Eddie Hearn and Deontay Wilder. I was like, but it's so wild and crazy that y'all forget who the fuck we be talking about when Devin Haney signed with Eddie Hearn. Now all sins were forgiven. It's crazy because you couldn't do a live on the whole Deontay Wilder versus AJ in the morning and then come back in the evening to talk about Devin versus anybody else. Why? Because you would sound real bipolar, forgiving Eddie and all his sins and the things that he do, because Eddie was famous for low ball offers. Eddie was famous for losing purse bids. Eddie has two tails. I said I did a video a long time ago called The Tale of Two Eddies. When he's promoting you, he's gonna get in front of the mic, he's gonna say everything in the world, and he's a charming guy. Eddie is cool. But when you talk about promotion and what have you done for me lately, and the actual things that you actually get across the table and the things that you actually do, why do we act bipolar? It wasn't Boots that was in charge of the offer. It wasn't Boots doing a low ball offer. And I think to a certain extent, I'm thinking that to a certain extent, some of these things, maybe he didn't know. But you can't have it both ways, to where you chose to go be with Eddie. You chose to go do that instead of going to go sign with the PBC where all the smoke was. It was Jesus Ramos. It was Erickson Lubin. You could have went over there. You could have even went over there with Golden Boy where they had a Charles Conwell. They had a Virgil Ortiz. That was another option. That was just like Shakur. He could have went straight over there. Think about this. He could have went straight over there to Golden Boy and got a Schofield and a Zepeda. You could have went over there and got a Conwell and a Virgil Ortiz. You didn't do that. So I'm like, why do we play like we bipolar? Why do we become the same fans that we despise whenever somebody actually puts you in them crosshairs and ask you to dot them T's and cross them I's? It's just a slander campaign. It's like, no, everybody's not out to go get Boots. I actually like Boots. I don't understand as fans, like, okay, well, because all you're doing is really, you're going to enable them. It's just like when I was saying, man, the dude need to go ahead and move up. They said I was rushing Boots. The minute he moved up, they said, oh, man, he been there for 10 years. I was like, what? Make up your mind. The other thing is this, missed opportunities, man. And this is the other thing, right? Eddie Hearn has a history of lowballing people. That's not a knock on Boots. That's just that you affiliated with somebody that would send out an offer knowing that they were lying. Like that shit that happened with Brian Norman, knowing that they were lying. Like that shit that they did 2 weeks before. And this is what I don't like. They actually slandered Brian Norman right before he had a fight. They didn't say nothing. Like if they knew they was going to move up, which is public information that a month out, they knew they was going to move up. Eddie come out, he shit on Brian Norman. He gets his name attached. He have all the media, the boxing voice, all these people to slander Brian Norman and all that, right? And then they announced that they moving up. So now, when Brian Norman go on and he talks about and he don't have the most favorable things to say about Boots and the whole camp and all this other stuff, now it's just, oh, I can't stand it. But we're gonna get to that. Like when we get into the meat and potatoes and we start talking about Brian Norman Jr., I find some inconsistencies there too with people who be claiming that they're boxing purists and that they look at everything from a certain way. It's just like, no, the political way, the politician way, you're gonna find something that you don't like and you're gonna harp on that. And you're gonna tell everybody that that's the reason, and you're gonna paint the narrative, and you're gonna become the same fan that you despise instead of keeping it a buck. The last thing I'm gonna say is like this: it's missed opportunity. Why? Because, and I had to apologize to Bud for this a while ago when I was insinuating that Bud might have had avoided Boots. And when I've seen opportunities that Boots could have had, like using your belts to latch on, because I was saying, shit, if you're gonna be undisputed in 4 different divisions, which you just passed up undisputed, like you foregone and went up. You was right that you had a dime piece in your bed with Brian Norman that was saying, listen, man, just, you know what I'm saying, let's get it on now. Let me get this, like, we can get it on. You passed that up. So that was the first division that you said you was gonna be undisputed in. Everybody gave you the benefit of the doubt on. You moved up to the other division and didn't use your leverage to attach anything or fight any champion. Like, you didn't do the Devin when he went up there to Regis. You didn't do the Bud when he went up there to Jeff Horn. You didn't do that. Getting ready to fight a dude that we don't know. You had Zoe Saldana in the bed at the telly. Said, I just want you to come over here and pound me. And then I show up to Walmart, or I catch you at Walmart and you with something like, who? I'm like, who was this, bro? You passed up Zoe Saldana in the bed, like, to go. Like, I don't understand. For this guy, we didn't understand. You didn't use your leverage. That's another question. Nobody can answer that. Why didn't you use your leverage? That's the same thing we got on Keyshawn about. That's the same thing we got on Shakur about. Letting go of your leverage. So if Shakur was going to move up and try to pursue a Devin Haney the way he did without the leverage, because he dropped his belt by missing weight against Robson Conceição. Keyshawn just did the same thing. So now he at 40, don't know what's going on, don't have no leverage, just dropped it. You just voluntarily, we don't even know why. Who's advising you? That's not a legitimate question as a fan to ask. So you don't do that. You re-sign with Eddie. When all the smoke is over there at PBC, this wasn't just a PBC fanboy or a PBC gangbanger saying, oh man, you know you need to be over there with the black man. This wasn't none of that. This was, oh, maybe it's a Jesus Ramos over there. Maybe it's a, dare I say, an Errol Spence over there at 54. Maybe it's a Fundora over there. Somehow you can work out something with Bakram Murtazaliev. It's a Tim Zoo over there. It's like plenty, it's mad work over there. So we can't ask that. But this is the last thing, and I'm going to get off of this. This is the last question I'm going to ask. Recently, Jamel Charlo, not too long ago, Jamel Charlo, and this surprised me. He came out. He came out and he had a logo. He had a lion biting on a shark, which shocked me because they're my 2 guys. Everybody know that I'm Tank, Errol Spence, Jamel Charlo. Everybody know that those are my top 3 guys. Everybody know that who've been watching the channel for any significant time. So it shocked me when I seen that lion biting on that shark. I'm like, they really gonna do it? Now, I used to didn't understand when they both was under Derrick James, because I used to say, how is that gonna work? Who's gonna get Derrick James in their corner? Who? But so now that's not an issue. That's not an issue. And that was when Earl was at 47 and he's getting ready to move to 54. So I was always questioning how that's gonna happen. So it shocked me when I seen that shark. I said, okay, that's interesting. I don't want to see Earl doing that on the first thing back. I would like for both of them to actually get their feet wet before they actually gonna fight. But Earl don't take tune-ups. That's just how he built. And Mel is Mel. He's still the king at 154, in my opinion. Right? He had a giraffe. I'm like, okay, that makes sense because Fundora is the guy. Now Fundora got the landlord. I call him the landlord. He's getting ready to go up against Keith Thurman. So I understand why the giraffe there, because it's like, okay, you stealing my thunder. You sitting in the throne while I'm gone. Okay, I understand that, Mel. But he also had a lion. He had a lion biting on a boot. And I ain't no genius because a lot of people play the game with the whole Bud, with like weather Bud, because we all know like Bud, his disposition was it really wasn't no need to fight no boots. As much as anybody, like myself, I was one of them people saying, are you gonna pass the torch? Bud, are you gonna, you know what I'm saying, are you gonna give Boots the opportunity? But it was one of them things where they were looking at Boots like, man, you like that next generation. You're not part of the Earl Spence, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Bud, Amir Khan, Kell Brook. You're not part of that era. You like you behind that era. It's almost like how Tank is in a little bit. He's like right behind that era at a lower weight class, but right behind that era in a weird situation because that's not your era, but that's right behind it. So we already knew that Bud's disposition was that he never really felt like he needed to fight you. But you happen to get his belt, and it's always this back and forth. Now, Bud just went up and did something epic by jumping up and doing what he did to Canelo. But they're still attaching your name to Bud. And I'm like, most of the time, the people that's in that era, that's ahead of you, like Jermell Charlo, it's kind of weird that the man did the lion biting on the boot, and that was like an alley hoop to you, Boots. You saying, hold on, I might get it. Like, in the way I was looking, I said, man, that's a missed opportunity. Who's advising you? Because you actually got a Jermell Charlo that actually put out a bat signal, basically saying when he put Fundora up there, because most people say, hey, man, make them, you know what I'm saying, make them work their way up or do whatever. Not Mel. Nobody says nothing about that. Nobody said nothing about that. Missed opportunity, man. The real C-Dub, salute Bodywork. WCF, salute Bodywork, salute Puma. Salute WCS, salute the real C-Dub. I'm going to see if AC come up tonight. I'm peace out. Okay, all right, yeah, he coming.
Yeah, what's good, bro? I've been in the background listening to the whole thing. But good.
But let me hold on, let me because you know I'm gonna get to the meat and potatoes, but yeah, before I do that, you know what I'm saying? Because I had to actually put this, you know how I feel. I had to put this on wax, man, before I get into the whole Brian Norman. What you think about what you think about that, man? What do you think about, you know, the things that were spoken of?
I'm gonna speak on Tim Bradley because he mentioned maybe 4 or 5 fighters that Shakur could have fought. You feel what I'm saying? We went over 5 fighters that Shakur could have fought if he took that 5-fight deal for Top Rank. We also said you might have made a premature move because you're there, but you're not quite there. Maybe after the 5-fight deal or somewhere in between, you find that dance partner that puts you in that mega stratus. And hopefully that would have been either Lomachenko or Tank. But I believe if he would have went ahead and maybe knocked off Bernacek, because Bernacek was kind of in that category of Stanionis, a real tough out, and we really want to see Bernacek like really face a tough guy because he had a strong reputation behind him. Keyshawn winds up dispatching him. I'm just only imagining. I'm only trying to imagine what that fight would have looked like with Shakur. You feel what I'm saying? Then you move horizontally and pick up those other belts and knock off one of these other young niggas. Then you added it. You would have been lineal. You would have been unified. You'd have knocked off, Loma. If you would have got past Tank in your undisputed run, it all would have looked good. And now you have, mad leverage of wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now you make the Tio fight at 140 like a mega fight. because now Tio is in his situation. Lineal champion versus lineal champion.
Yep.
But it's like where you talk about missed opportunities, and Tim Bradley gave you a blueprint, and you decide to go someplace else. He was trying to give you advice, like look, if what Tim Bradley said in that moment, I was like, I seriously doubt the matchmakers at Top Rank didn't have something just as strong or even stronger in that 5-fight deal. As far as the tale of two Eddies, we've been cooking on that. Like ever since I met you, and linked up with you, we've been cooking on that. When the 402 was like really, really cooking, and what I mean by the 402, I mean good people I know from Omaha, Nebraska, when they were on live every day, especially with Cam and stuff like that, narrating the show, we were going through potential fights for Boots and other young dudes that were coming up or had names maybe not really known in America, but had decent names and legacy names across the pond. And when the whole Blair Cop thing fell apart, you feel what I'm saying? It was like, yeah, he chunked them, but I'm hearing rumbles that Connor was like, look, I'll go over to America and fight this Jerron Boots and this guy. You feel what I'm saying? And then that was maybe a 3-day conversation, and then everything just disappeared because the narrative people came up and squashed it. Like, who the fuck know who Conor Benn is in this country is? And then we were like, well, that same Conor Benn we talking about is the Conor Benn Keith Thurman Act, $10 million to go ahead and fight. That same Conor Benn that we talking about is the same son of fucking Nigel Benn. That's a legacy boxing name. That's his son. It's the same thing with Chris Eubanks Jr. So why wouldn't that make sense? If you saying it's so hard for you to have a fight, why not go overseas and knock off Conor Benn, the most popular fucking 147 pounder in the UK at that time? It was like, come on, man, like bro, these are things that were making me question. These were like little rumblings that, because I was watching dudes like Hatman and it's another dude that's like really a big time UK channel and stuff like that, and they were bigging up Conor Benn and like, why isn't Conor Benn's name being brought up in American boxing things at 147?
I used to push him before he popped. I used to push him. He was in my intro and I had an intro with him and everything. Like,
yeah, and
I used to be huge on Conor Benn, but
yeah, I was huge on him too, because I was like, yo, this dude. Because here's the thing with me with Conor Benn. The thing that somewhat attracts me to Min Billy is the fact that both him and Conor Benn threw punches like, look, I'm putting everything behind this one shot, and wherever it's going to land, it's going to hurt you. And to me, that seemed to be their mentality. But I just always felt that Conor Benn was more technical than Min Billy. You feel what I'm saying? But that same, I'm just throwing everything like wang 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 at you. I that's the thing that attracted me to Conor Benn. I was like, yo, this UK dude, boy, yo, do not stand in front of that guy, because if he smack you with one of them crazy ass punches he throw, he tell me the truth, bro. Wasn't he knocking dudes completely stupid? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was bombarded. He was relentless. He was like what he did to Al Jury.
Yeah.
Like, and the reason why I backed up off him, I said, because okay, if it wasn't true, I understand you got to knock the rust off. But if it wasn't true, and you got back in the gym and nothing changed, it wouldn't been such of a big drop off. Now it's like it looked like you can't crack an egg, like you know what I'm saying. So I'm like, man, it was too kind of like too obvious to me. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man,
yeah. And then when me and you finally linked, and we were cooking on the fact that Boots done went over there and signed with Eddie, we were immediately talking like, whoa, does that mean this is a move, or are we gonna get an announcement real soon that Conor Ben versus Jerron Boots and it's over in the UK is about to happen, so Boots can get that stardom that every top level American fighter has done. You feel what I'm saying? Errol went over to the UK. Bud went over to the UK. Floyd went over to the UK. You feel what I'm saying? That's where you go. You go to Europe and you make yourself a global name.
Tank went over there too.
Yeah, Andre Ward. What was that? Andre Ward and Canelo. What was their runs over in Europe? They were calling them the European tours. You feel what I'm saying? So it was just like, bruh, come on, man. Come on. Boots, go over to the UK. Fight Conor Ben. If you don't want to fight Blair Cobbs in the UK because he's lost some luster off his name since he got that since he was stopped, and then Golden Boy put him on the shelf. You feel what I'm saying? And now he's a forgotten commodity. So if that's the case, why not go over to Conor Ben? And then when it got thick and Conor Ben started calling him out, what did Bozy say? Don't nobody know Conor Ben in South Philly. Like, the fuck that got to do with it?
Yeah, but then like it was just weird. It was just different energy, and I don't like the fact that much like up until now, because again, I don't want everybody to get this misconstrued. Up until now, Devin and them got me quiet. The D-Hop actually got me quiet because I'm getting ready to get into this Brian Norman stuff. But the D-Hop got me quiet because I never would have thought they would take this kind of fight. So now I'm like, man, Devin got me shutting the fuck up. I'm like, okay, then I can't do nothing about Devin, right? But my whole thing is when I try to hold Boots to these standards, like the fact that, what do you think about the fact that, did you miss what I was saying about Jermell Charlo?
No.
Biting on a boot, like having a lion biting on a boot. Now you would think, if he was on some stuff like somebody else, like saying, "Oh, you behind me, that's your generation," or young dude, but he actually did that. So that's your segue to where if you moved out to 54. Last time I checked, like until they tell us otherwise, Mel is the guy at 54 who's gonna come back in the 54 until they tell us something different. Like, ain't that like an alley-oop to say, all right, look, I want, like, I basically, I show a lion biting on a boot and you don't say nothing?
Okay, you're lineal champion at 47. Or former lineal champion at 47, right? Mel is lineal champion at 54. So out of all the other champions, the most relevant one is actually Mel. He was the one that collected all the belts. It's basically, he didn't do the snap. Somebody did the snap, and all of Mel's collected Infinity Stones disappeared. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't lose them. The Avengers did not beat him in the fight. Captain America did not stop this dude. You feel what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, Mel is still, in my opinion, the most relevant champion at 54. So if you got an opportunity where you see Mel Charlo biting on the boot, okay, I'm gonna make a statement. And my statement is, I move up to 54. I fight one of the champs. I get one of the current champs' belt. I use my leverage between the IBF or WBA champ. After that, I immediately challenge Jermell Charlo. make him come out of retirement. I'll give you the opportunity to get a warm up. And when you get this warm up, now guess what? I could not go fight a Lima, and ain't nobody gonna complain about it. Eddie, all of them will give me that fight. Will probably put me and Mel on the same card, and it'll be the same thing he did with Wilder and Joshua. The same thing, when Dubois, I think, was on the undercard of Usyk's fight. So you're getting recency bias to whereas you're not going all the way back to a year before, 2 years before, whatever, to see how these guys are going to look in their prospective matchup, which then makes the chatter between the internet, it takes it over. It has an entire birthday. So when we talk about constantly missing opportunities, those are consistent missed opportunities that, right now, these are the biggest complaints that we have of a Shakur Stevenson and a Boots Ennis. Like, why do you keep missing these opportunities?
Because look, think about it. We was like everybody, like Tim Tszyu kind of won the masses over because of his personality, but his willingness. So you gotta think, he fought Fundora twice. He went in there with Bakram. He fought Tony Harrison. He fought like you gotta look at what he did, and then like when you question, it's like, okay, well, Boots, like you could have made your statement against Bakram. Bakram looking like the boogeyman. You could have had Boychuk, the dude who beat your Ennis Taylor. You could have been the one to beat your Ennis Taylors like that. Like,
yeah,
it's like all these different. Okay, so if you didn't get a bud, Mel is actually showing that he's biting on a boot, and y'all don't bite on nothing. Like you like, and then you get mad when we say you lowball Charles Conwell. Because he said, look, I didn't even think about it. I was surprised they thought my worth was that low. It's like, well, we can't talk about that, but that's that's not your doing. That's Eddie doing. But then Eddie came out and he called out Brian Norman like 15 days, 10 days before he was getting ready to fight, and then y'all move up y'all moved. Well, no, it was about 20 days before he getting ready to fight Jen. You pull that stunt, and then so now that he clapping back, you saying that he clout chasing? It's like, but anyways, man, I just
want to give before we get into the meat and potatoes, I wanted to give Tim Bradley or Tim Cooney his actual props for a great Durango Unchained impression. Yeah, back in boxing in my day, we had these fighters. Yeah, y'all know about these killers. We talk best damn gunslingers in the Wild West. Yeah, you feel what I'm saying? So it's like, bro, please with the Durango Unchained narrative, bro. Don't stop watching them westerns like that, bro. Like they're B-level movies, and when you come out and you try to do that, it's just like, it's cringe.
It's like he drink a picture of that Kool-Aid, that Kool-Aid that they had on House Party when when the boy was pulling all that sugar. It's like he get a big ass glass of that shit and watch a little bit of showbiz, and he come out, I'm like, I can hold my beer, you know what I'm saying? And he try to, it's like, I'm like, Tim, relax, man, Captain Obvious. But let's get into the meat and potatoes, bro. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. All right, let me do this. I gotta do this because hopefully they don't. Brian Norman, man. Brian Norman has been. I gotta put this up. Brian Norman has been saying and doing. This is fair use, right? Fair use. Brian Norman has been saying and doing. Everything right in my book. Right, and I applaud the man because he had a brush with the Beehive and that fan base, and they're not going to stop. And now he's actually coming head to head with the D-Hive, and you know how they rock and they roll.
Yeah.
But he came out with something. I'm gonna put this up here. in 2025. Brian Norman blames himself for those who don't appreciate him. Now that's the title they came up with. Not a title I would have used. I'm a little more creative than that. You see what my title is.
Yeah.
Brian Norman give the secret sauce to his success. And it's going to be in here. Brian Norman blames himself for those who don't appreciate him. In the hours after Terence Crawford's victory over Saul Canelo Alvarez, which anointed him history's first three-weight undisputed champion, one of his old quotes spread like wildfire. It had nothing to do with his Mexican opponent being pound for pound number one or any of boxing's inherent braggadocio whatsoever. It was
Your volume just went out, Body.
Huh?
Your volume went out.
They doing that? Why do they do that, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good. It just went out for that short period before I saw you click moving up to the next paragraph or whatever.
See, they do that, man. I hate that they do that whenever I'm hold on 1 second. Let me fix this. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. All right. So it says, he said, I never sold my soul to get where I am now. It started. They said I had no personality and wanted me to act like a clown, but I said I'm going to be me. And if you don't like it, so be it. And look where I'm at now for doing it my way. Crawford has never been one to court the media and has in fact taken a pretty dim view of it altogether. As his quote insinuates, there have been promoters along the way who have instructed him to open up more, to play the game. He never did, but in the end, he still won. It was the sort of quote which would have struck a chord with a man who took over from him as the WBO welterweight champion, Brian Norman Jr. The 24-year-old has enjoyed a stealthy and undefeated rise to the top table of the 147-pound division, but the volume around him will crank up significantly should he beat Devin Haney at A&B Arena, Riyadh on November 22nd at the Ring 4 Night of the Champions. He initially won the WBO interim title with an impressive 10th round KO victory over Giovanni Santillan, who was 32-0 before running into Norman. A few months later, he was officially elevated to his position as full champion when Crawford moved up to 154 pounds, and he made the first defense of that belt with another big win, this time stopping Derek Cuevas inside 3 on March 29th. But it was his next victory just 3 months later that made the most noise. Norman traveled to Tokyo, Japan to take on Jin Sasaki, who had been hailed as another potential star of the country's current golden era. However, after being dropped twice in the first round, Sasaki was left out cold on his back within a minute of the 5th round starting. It was the sort of knockout of the year contender that reverberates around social media, and finally Norman was getting his flowers. Until that night, I was definitely underappreciated, Norman tells The Ring. And that's because of me. The reason being is I'm not like anybody else. I'm not very brash and boastful. I'm not very arrogant. I'm not very loud spoken, and I'm not out there like that. That's not really my style. I'm too respectful. And another thing about me is I don't really care about marketing. I'm not out here trying to post a whole bunch of stuff every day. I'm not out here trying to do anything special. I just like putting in my work and chilling with my people. But I actually love how that is. I like letting my work speak for itself. And after the Jin Sasaki knockout, that's when everything started to get bigger. That's the secret. He let his work speak for himself. Not because of some interview, not because of some video in the gym. not because of who I'm hanging around, but simply because of my work. I like that. That's what kind of man I am. There was a time when Eddie Hearn, who was attempting to make a world title unification between the young Georgian and his client Jerron Boots Ennis at the time, suggested that Brian Norman's commercial appeal would be damaged simply by the fact that he's called Brian Norman. So far as one of boxing's youngest world champions who was on the cusp of a lucrative showdown with Haney, that has not proven to be the case. But even still, he says, I'm going to carry my same self into this next fight with Devin Haney. I'm going to knock him out. And guess what? Everything's going to get bigger. I'm going to be the exact same person I am right now and say, hey, how you doing? Everything good? Everything good with me too. And I'll keep it pushing. Even though it has all gotten bigger since I beat Sasaki personally, my life has not changed at all. What am I supposed to do? Go and buy some crazy stuff, go hang around a bunch of women, go hang around the clubs or something like that? Nah, that really ain't me. I go take care of what's in front of me, and right now that's Devin Haney. I'm going to take care of that as well. Norman and his next opponent have had very different careers in terms of their exposure to the glare of the media spotlight, but there are also strange parallels. Firstly, they both cut their teeth on club shows in Mexico as wide-eyed American teenagers. Haney's first outing there in Tijuana on December 11th, 2015, ended in 33 seconds. Norman's first outing across the border at the Gimnasio de Mexicali in 2018 lasted just 27. They would both end up with double-figure outings in Mexico before returning to America, permanently making their names. Those Mexican fights, Norman said, shoot, they are exactly how you would imagine. That first fight was outside, but it was packed. Them folks love boxing, and the more I was out there catching bodies, the more they just kept loving me. I had a wonderful time there, and it built up a whole lot of character, and that's why I have no problem going into enemy territory. I came up in it, as well as the Mexican grounding. Both Norman and Haney are notable for central roles of their fathers in their career. Two dads have already been going back and forth, and it's likely that they would do most of the talking during fight week ahead of November 22nd. There are a lot of similarities between us too, Norman says of Haney. So we know that Devin and Bill are going through. All just look at the dynamics with me and my father, and then Devin and his father, who was the loudest in both of our dynamics and things of that nature. We saw it in a Regis Prograis fight, how Devin listened to his father. He could have pushed it, but his pop said, no, don't do it, just keep boxing. I do the same with my pops. Whatever he tells me to do inside the ring, I go out and do it. So we as fighters are doing our part. It is now all about the game plan from the coaches. It is all coming down to the coaching on this one. The undefeated pair boasts a combined record of 60-0, but few can forget the night when Haney was dropped 3 times at the hands of an overweight and Ostarine-fueled Ryan Garcia on a tumultuous night for the Dream, given Garcia's failed drug test and subsequent ban. The result on April 20th, 2024 was changed to a no contest, but Norman believed the mental scars may still be prevalent. It will have a lasting impression, Norman says, but we don't know which way it could go. It could go good or it could go bad. My point is, I've seen people turn against me in the past as well. I could have just fallen down and disappeared from the earth, and y'all never would have known about me. But I said, forget that. I'm going to show y'all something real quick. It can go either way. So that all depends on Devin. The secret to his success, y'all, is the fact that he lets his work speak for him. That's the secret. Bro. I know y'all was waiting for some big mysterious thing, but it's the same thing that this young man is doing and how he got his rise to the top. Same thing that he did. You know what I'm saying? It's really, in all honesty, it's the same thing that this man did, even though nobody will give him credit. His work inside the ring spoke for him. And that's the secret.
There's one more fighter. And I'm saying, and if I put all of the guys that I say let their work speak for themselves and overcome the naysayers as well, you know what name I'm gonna say. TBC. You feel what I'm saying? But I'm gonna say it like this: when I look at Brian Norman Jr. and then, even though I'm not looking at, though I'm hearing his words spoken through someone else. When you look at that picture of him holding the mic, you just say to yourself, "This guy talks like a complete champion."
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't. It's between him and like Abdullah Mason. If we're just talking about the youngins, I'm not hearing other young champions really talk like that. Bam is starting to talk like that a little bit. I guess he's starting to come into his own confidence. You feel what I'm saying? But them two, it's like they were born with that understanding. It's like, look, it could go either way. I'm humble enough to know that when it comes down to everything, it's always binary. Depending on the work I put in, it goes good or it goes bad. But it's
Mm-hmm.
always going to be a binary decision. I understand that. Some guys, they may have doubts, and to compensate for that doubt, they remove the binary factor of it and just say, no, it's just this, and that. It's just this. And then there are guys out there that make and they're matched for everything to be binary. I mean, not binary, but just singular.
Mm-hmm.
You have all the advantages. You're gonna rehydrate better. You have reach, you have height, you just have all the advantages in this. It's just a given you're gonna win this fight. You know what I'm saying? We're just discussing at what round do you stop it? At what round does it get stopped? You know what I'm saying? When you look at his victory over Santillan, you know, some people, I guess, who are detractors of him, when you say, yeah, Santillan was the guy that they wanted to put the money behind and he upset the apple cart, it's like, nah, not really. I don't really see it that way. And I'm like, I don't know how you don't see it that way. The writing was on the wall. Look at how they was talking about the two fighters going into the fight. When it comes down to this fight right here between him and Devin Haney, I'm still 1,000% convinced. Devin may be a better boxer. You feel what I'm saying? Brian Norman can box, but I would give certain edges in boxing to Devin Haney. But Brian Norman is a solid boxer, and he has power, and he's at a conviction to where his conviction and his mantra is he's not doubting himself. There is no doubts in his mind. He understands binary. So that relieves doubt because it's already baked in the jump off. It could go good, I knock this nigga out early. It could go bad, I have to fight this dude 12 rounds. But either way, I make the same money. If I put on a great performance, while I say it goes good, I put on a great performance, I become that guy. I understand what's there. Me, the dynamic is constantly telling me, and the numbers and everything else tell me, yes, you're a better boxer, but this is that guy's time. This is his moment. Your moment came when you beat Kambosos, you beat Loma, and you beat Regis. Now, your moment is gone because your moment is now replaced with questions. And your last performance did not answer any questions. It only created more questions. When I look at this guy's performances, there are no questions.
Yeah, I like his approach. I like his approach to this fight because I know he's supremely confident in his mind, and he like, yeah, if I could touch him the way if I could touch him the way I've been touching everybody else, then it's gonna be just like everybody else. But I think the way he's speaking is he also realizes that if if it don't go good, the media and everybody is gonna they're gonna say, "Oh man, he was fluke." It's like the same because Devin tried to
Was
create
Jin
this little
Sasaki
narrative.
his best win? Was the Santillan fight a fluke, and was Jin Sasaki just his best win because of Japanese boxing?
Yeah,
That's probably what they're gonna say about it.
yeah, and they're gonna say he was. They're gonna say, "Oh, he was a hype guy." They gonna try to go with that narrative that he was built by Top Rank, and even though that's like if you've been following along, he definitely hasn't. He's been the salmon swimming upstream, and in a lot of ways, a lot of people was thinking that he was on borrowed time. He proved everybody wrong. Like he's pretty much like the definition of pretty much betting on yourself.
Bro, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna try to sit out here and hummer stunt. I was a person that felt that way. Part of my argument was when all four of them had belts, Boots, Barrios, everybody was there. I was always the one making the argument that listen, the person with the best resume you save for last, and that's Mario Barrios. Boots, right? Just put Brian Norman in a position. He just got that belt. He hasn't put his shit together. Take his belt, now you unified. Then you take out Stanionis, or if Stanionis want to get it on with Barrios, then the winner of you versus Brian Norman and the winner of Barrios versus Stanionis, y'all do like a tournament shit, tournament of champions, and the last man standing walks away with everything. New lineal status, everything. Me personally, I'm like, listen, you may be a better boxer, but Devin, but Brian Norman Sr. is a better coach than you are. So he'll be able to see where the adjustments need to be made. He'll be able to, him and his son, have a magnetic dynamic, an electromagnetic magnetic dynamic. You feel what I'm saying? That nothing's gonna come between them. You feel what I'm saying? And there's no doubt. Yes, you're the better boxer. Yes, you have the edge in technical ability. But that kid is a better athlete. He can box, and that nigga has the ability to knock you stupid once he does touch you. Your issue is, for me, it's like, it's not a matter of if he touches him, it's when he touches him. And I believe between Brian Norman's athleticism, we're gonna see his footwork. You feel what I'm saying? Dev thinks he's gonna outuse footwork and stuff like that, and try to use angles and all of these other things to try to turn him to nullify his power and keep him on the edge of a jab. If that's even their game plan, you feel what I'm saying? If that's even their game plan, and we're gonna know kind of what the temperature is by the shit Bill may say going into it, because Bill is gonna come in there riding off a lot of hype, because he's like, I just got the credibility. I'm getting the credibility off of talking Bud Crawford in the fight with Canelo. So y'all know I know what I'm talking about. So when I'm gonna tell my son what to do, my son gonna go out there and down goes he. You feel what I'm saying? And then it's like, okay, Bill, I know you just didn't say and down goes Brian. Wow. Okay, yeah, whatever. Now you're delusional, Bill. Now you're delusional.
Well, this you brought up an interesting point, and I think that people, if we're gonna be objective about this conversation about them two facing, like I noticed that a lot of boxing dads get lumped together. Now him and Bill get lumped together because they're vocal online. What I think goes over a lot of people's heads is that they'll lump Bill Haney, they'll lump a Schofield, a Papa Schofield, and they'll lump a Bozy and a Brian Norman Sr., right? The thing is, Brian Norman Sr. should be getting the same respect that Bozy gets because they both boxed. They actually boxed. Like Bozy, unless you get him worked up, he's laid back and chill. Like he's you know what I'm saying? He's the sensei. He's just, he ain't really gonna say, unless you get him worked up, he ain't gonna really say nothing.
Yeah, and just let me interject this about Bozy. When
ahead.
Bozy gives fight analysis, listen to that man, because he know what the fuck he talking about, and a lot of times he's accurate as a fuck. And these are not even his fighters that he's talking about. So I respect Bozy on that level, hard body.
Yeah, and that's because he was a fighter. You know what I'm saying? And then, he's training other guys. Like the things that he's doing with Andy Cruz, I think that's to be admired. Given that amateur style, taking them to the pros. But what I'm getting at is that a lot of people they shit on Senior, but they don't give him the respect of somebody who actually laced them up and has a history of actually being pro. This is not like Papa Sko. You know what I'm saying? This is not like Bill. Like this is not like he did this with his son. And like when you look at the whole thing with him and Devin, I just want to be clear about something. There was no Zab Judah. There was no Roy Jones. There was no Floyd Mayweather. There was no, you know what I'm saying? All of these boxing royalty in the background of his son. It was Senior who has a history and passed down that DNA, muscle memory, like his genes, down to his son as a guy who laced him up. That's what it was that he passed down. You got to think, Devin is coming up to challenge this man at his highest division, where he should have been already for his belt. Like, so you gotta put some respect on Senior's name because he was able to do this in the glamour division on Top Rank, who they said traditionally didn't even promote. Like they said, man, they didn't know what to do. People be saying now they didn't know what to do. Junior was the salmon swimming upstream. He upset the apple cart. He wasn't supposed to be there. They had this design for Santillion, and they didn't see this coming. So you got to put the respect. So he has a right to be able to brag, because if your son, pretty much, they say this is the 140 is the glamour division. Like you altered T.O.'s moves. Like T.O. said no. You know what I'm saying? He went somewhere else. Now he's getting ready to let Shakur come up. You know what I'm saying? And they gonna get it on. Boots, you know what I'm saying? He had Zoe Saldana in the telly saying, hey, come pound me. He went out of town.
Yeah, with his homies,
you know what I'm saying?
At that. With other niggas at that.
So this is what I'm saying. So when a father gets his son the same bragging rights that Bill have, when he say, hey, my son was undisputed, you gotta extend that same courtesy to Senior. He's proud of his son, who he didn't have all those things. He didn't have the Mayweathers to do. He didn't have none of those things, the Zabs, the Roy. He didn't have even the channels. Like this is what you gotta think. He don't have, like, he had the boxing boys for a little while, but like when it come to him and Devin, you know which way they swinging. He don't got a whole nother channel, really. Like, you know what I'm saying? Some people out here to paint the narrative and to sway into, you know what I'm saying, cock block and all that. Like this dude, they got it out the mud. So when he brags on his son, he a proud father, man. I think you gotta look
two dedicated channels.
Huh?
Devin had 2 dedicated YouTube channels.
Man, Devin got a personal slut.
He got, you know, 2 of them. He got 2 of them.
Yeah, he got one that's down and dirty, man.
That's the bottom. That's what they call the bottom bitch.
He got one that he can, man, show how much, man. You talking about the bottom, like, man.
That's why, you know, I don't pop up when there's conversations really about Devin over there, because I'm just gonna be an honest fan. That Devin is my guy, but I just have to I'm gonna be watching that fight with my hands over my eyes, with one hand split. Like I don't know when he gonna smack this dude, but oh my god, he gonna smack this kid, and it's just gonna get ugly. It's gonna get ugly after that because this is not the type of power that you kind of like really get up and you're 100% recovered from. You're gonna see the lags. You feel what I'm saying? And I think when that first body shot hit, and then the strength of the jab, a body shot, and just a clean shot. It's those three punches right there are just going to change the dynamic to whereas um, we may see Dev either get points taken off for non-engagement or excessive holding, because this is one of uh, his harshest critics say he does excessively to where he should be getting points taken off. And if you do go back to, I don't remember if it was the first or second Cambosis fight, he was warned a couple of times for holding. So I get it. He's gonna go to that, and I don't know if you get rocked on the way out. I don't know if B Norm's power just splits your shit and he comes up with a short uppercut or a short hook that fucks your feet up, and then the next one just smacks you to sleep. I see too many ways and too many of your flaws that give for every one of Devin flaws. That's a way for Brian Norman to knock him the fuck out or TKO him. For every one of Devin flaws, because he's dealing with different power.
Do you think Devin is going to be able to elude as much as he did with the Jose Ramirez?
That's the problem. That's where the rule of non-engagement is going to come into play. The ref has the discretion to take the point if you're refusing to engage. So he'll lose rounds if he does that, not because he was outboxed, because you refuse to engage. Because the minute that shit starts happening, the crowd's going to start to boo. Bet you see one of the Turks people walk over there. You know, somebody's going to catch a picture of that when the Turk people walk over there and they start talking to the officials. And then when that round's over, the official talks to the ref that if this motherfucker do this shit again in this round and for the rest of this fight, take a fucking point. And or, you know, if it's egregious, he could technically lose. I don't know. We've seen other weird ass decisions that refs do. So, you know, yeah. And then that'll be a controversial win for Brian Norman. He'll get the moral victory because we're all going to see that Devin refused to engage. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. Salute Aaron Jones. Yeah. Salute Aaron.
So yeah. for the Devin Haney fans, they're going to use that one round. I think that was the 10th. I think it might have been the 10th round with Terrence Crawford versus Canelo, where Bud Crawford fought Canelo for like a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and then he got on his bicycle. He did the like the skit, like the football skit, and then he backed out. You feel what I'm saying? So they're gonna say, well, Bud did that and that. Why didn't they take the point in that? Why didn't they take? Dev was doing the same thing.
Nah, you know you know how that go. That's why it was kind of hard. Like that's why I said, remember that weekend when Devin and Jose Ramirez, they did their thing, and then Skull and Canelo did their thing, and I was like, you got to think, how did you? I'm like, hold on. So the A sides won. That's the only thing that was in common was the A sides, because the arguments that people took let you know like they're biased, because you know what I'm saying. I was like, man, this is the perfect scenario that where you actually going to see, and you actually have some knee pad wearing fans They really got out there and really twerked. Like they twerked that thing. I said, man, you can't. It's like no, you don't have to try to. You're gonna have to be consistent. So that means either one of them lost, like either Canelo lost or Devin lost.
Yeah, I
You
was
know
like,
what I'm saying?
like, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you would have to say it, but they got out there and twerked, man. Like they did. I said, man, I said this is why. I said this is what's wrong with boxing talk and all that. Like because you can't say like in the Devin and it was only a difference of 6 punches. That's the whole thing. I think it was a difference of 6 punches, and people still showed their biasness. I said, see, that's why you can't. It ain't fair. We already know that it's narrative driven.
Yeah, they took them narratives and you know threw on some cut Daisy Dukes and went to pop the booty popping pop. See, you feel what I'm saying? That's like, yo, you niggas twerk the shit out of them narratives because I came keeping the same energy. I was like, look, I don't even like these dudes talking about this fucked up rule because at the end of the day, who are you going after? The guy who refused to engage or the guy that doesn't know how to cut off the ring? Like, who's the villain in this situation? Cutting off the ring is a fundamental skill. So if you don't know how to cut off the ring, which was the same criticism we gave Jerome Boots Ennis when he fought Karan the first time. We was like, look at this dude, he don't know how to cut off the ring. It's the same criticism that Shakur Stevenson showed. Who was that against? Artem?
Edwin.
No, not Edwin. It was the fight after that. Who was his last fight?
You saying we're cutting off the ring?
Yeah.
Well, he fought the last fight was the Pater, but you talking about Aratunian was the one after Edwin.
Yeah, the Aratunian fight. You feel what I'm saying? That was the fight. He kept on going back to the end of the corner, like, I'm gonna stop him. Don't worry, I'm gonna stop him. Stop him. And then he was like, but he won't stand in front of me. And then his pops was trying to tell him how to cut off the ring. He's like, yeah, but he won't stand in front of me. And that's where he exposed himself that he actually did not know how to cut off the ring.
He said, because what he said, and I was clowning. I said, see, they don't even realize, man. He said, did y'all see him running? He said Artem was running. I said, oh man, so when you're evading, you're not running. You're just the most skilled defensive fighter employed. But when he was evading you, he's running. Got you.
Exactly. And for me, it was like that wasn't the point I was making. I was only making the point of him exposing himself that he didn't know how to cut off the ring. That was a fundamental skill for a guy that we talk about has such great footwork that he did not know how to cut off the ring. That was like, whoa, Shakur. I never knew that about you. You seem to know how to do it before, but maybe the way you kept your guard, you were in the way you were taking them steps, it looked like it. You were good with masking, following the guy, and making it look like you're cutting off the ring. So yeah, you had me fooled. Wow. Okay. There was no fucking way I think you beat Tank after that. Tank knows how to cut off the ring. He knows how to apply pressure, and he knows how to fight off the back foot. So footwork right there and ring IQ, I'm giving that shit to Tank all day long. You just proved to me that there's a fundamental skill if you're going to be considered, elite like that you obviously don't have.
Right.
You're a great fighter. You need that skill set. So that's the thing that was pissing me off about the whole Tom and Jerry argument and what people were dubbing as the showbiz rule. I was like, what the fuck? One of the skills is a fundamental skill. If you don't know how to do it, that's your fault. Not the other guy's fault that's running. Yes, the ref could take a point from the guy that's running for refusal to engage, but the bigger problem is who you are, you do not know how to cut off the ring. Canelo and Ramirez are both in the same category. We was always told about Canelo's footwork, his ability to cut off the ring, his ability to do and ooh. but yet he couldn't do that shit with William Skull. Yet he couldn't do it with Terrence Crawford. So those are two fights back to back where it showed that this man at the at one level into the highest level, he does not know how to cut off the ring. That's why I guess he would not fight either one of the Charlos or fucking or Andrade.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, bro, so it's just like, yeah, man, I'm not a fan of that rule. I'm not a fan of those trying to penalize people, penalize fighters that have lateral movement. But at the end of the day, Devin Haney, just like Floyd told you, no matter how good your footwork is and your defense is, at some point you gotta fight. Fights are not won completely off of being defensive and being elusive. You gotta score points with punches.
Yeah, and you already got you going into this fight like this is like you know, Devin's never been. He's never had his back up against the wall like this because this is one of the things to where it's like after the last performance, they're not gonna pay. They're not gonna pay for like if you go in there and do what you did with Jose Ramirez. One, you're probably gonna lose, but two, they're not gonna pay you after that. So
Yeah.
this is like I can't believe it. I'm you know again, this is one of the
Salute
first
to him
times
for
I'm
taking
giving.
the fight.
Yeah, I'm
Salute
giving him a lot of credit for taking this,
Whoa.
man. That's why I say I'm quiet. I'm really
Whoa.
not. If you notice, I really haven't really been bashing Devin like that. I just been saying, hey man, hey, I hope you training. I hope you because I can't when you do what you're supposed to do and you face who you're supposed to face, like you know, you're getting closer to the weight class you should be in. You know, you fighting the killer. It's like I can't argue. I can't fuss. Like that's all I ever wanted.
Bro.
You know what I'm saying? You could talk all the shit you want if you doing these kind of moves, like when he did what he did with Regis. This fight, yeah, hey, you ain't gonna hear nothing out of me, but hey, rumble, young man, rumble. That's all I'm gonna hear.
Me on this one, bro. I think I'm probably being a little, as a fan of his, being a little harder on him, is because I want to be hard on him to a certain degree that for me, just in case he pulls off what I would consider, you know, a big task for him, it would make me jump up and be like, whoa, yeah, I actually watched that fight round and round and legitimately he did X, Y, and Z. He used superior boxing to pick him apart and nullify a lot of things and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's crazy. He jumped up to 47 and he beat the toughest motherfucker that's there. You gotta respect this kid. You feel what I'm saying? I guess that's why I'm being hard on him. So I can constantly say I was completely against him on this fight. I just couldn't see any way for him to win because I felt, and I said it out loud, and I doubled down on it, that for every one of Devin's flaws, that's a way for Brian Norman to knock him out. And I'm actually expecting Devin to be knocked the fuck out or TKO'd. If he goes in the floor trying to hold him, Brian Norman is just too strong. He's gonna bust Devin Haney. He's gonna bust out of that shit, and either Devin Haney's gonna get it pulling out, unless he's training to step out and step around or something like that and stay low. And as he's stepping out, keep his chin tucked. But or he could just push him out and hit him with one of them quick, like get out of here and shoot a quick, like one of them short Mike Tyson uppercuts. Like the uppercut that was that Barrios knockout when Tank was up against the rope and he threw that uppercut? Was that the Mario Barrios knockout?
That was He did Rolly like that up against the ropes, but he had Leo Santa Cruz up
No,
against.
yeah, it was Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
It was Leo Santa Cruz had his back up against the wall. They was fighting, and Tank was right there, and he just stepped in and was like, "Pow!" with that short little crazy uppercut. That's how I think he stops Devin Haney. It's
I
gonna be
I,
something that looked like that.
I think this is what I think because Devin got this habit of where he dipped down and he always go to that side. I think it's gonna be a double impact where he gonna be going down and Brown Norman gonna be coming up, so it's gonna be worse because he's gonna aid the blow. He's gonna be going up against it. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, this is
Scary knockouts, bro. It's gonna be scary. And as a Devin Haney fan, that's the part I'm worried about. Like you get knocked out in a scary knockout, like what happened to Jin.
and I think this is another thing though. As much as I believe he's going to end it, there is still some pressure on B Norm. So I mean, that's why I'm glad that he's going in it with the mindset that he got because there is pressure, like because there's some pressure to where if he don't get this done, if he can't cut the ring off, and and Devin do get the style, and wow, I just don't think. I think that this is one of those things to where I finally get to cash in on what I've been saying, and this can be something for like years to come where I'm saying like I can show and prove that when you do this, when you've been down there and you like make a living on fighting people that you're bigger, because this is the same thing that I think Shakur is going to run into. Like if you were to take it, because he's actually bigger than Tio. But if you take and you switch your Shakur with that Gary Antoine Russell, or you switch your Shakur with that Sabril Matias, this will be that same kind of challenge. You just because you've been so used to actually having those advantages over these guys that now it's going to catch up to you. Like because you're not the more athletic one. You don't have the reach. It's the same thing that when Devin first went up there with Ryan. I said, okay, so now we really get to see. And it's going to be the same thing. Like, this is why I wanted to see Boots versus Bachram. Or Boots versus, like, anybody, like, with a name. Like, I would have took a Conwell.
Yeah.
Like, because...
Go ahead, sorry.
No. Because when you're facing those guys like that where you've had all those advantages, then you got somebody that got some pop and they're athletic, it's a different ball game, man.
Well, let me put it to you like this. We all play video games, right? We all play fighting video games, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in Street Fighter. When you go through and you're playing, let's say, the computer and everything, you'll beat the tall, big, slow guy. You feel what I'm saying? You'll struggle with the little short, fast, quick move. Like this little motherfucker is crazy, like fighting Law or something like that. In Mortal Kombat, I mean Lee in Mortal Kombat or Law in Street Fighter, whatever that game is. I'm fucking up, but basically what the point I'm trying to make is, and an analogy I'm trying to make is, where you struggle the most in all of that is when you mirror match your fighter. They put this two of the same characters because you know everything that person's gonna do is all the things you know how to do. You feel what I'm saying? And that's where all the advantages are now even, because now I have to face the same thing of the character that I tend to use a lot. So I know those combinations that fuck everything up. If the computer decides to cheat me, I'm gonna lose, and this is gonna be the one I gotta keep fighting this guy like 3-4 times to actually beat him before I get to the final boss, because it's my mirror match, and they always make my mirror match right before I get to the final boss. And sometimes the mirror match is so fucking crazy, I gotta rage quit. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, for me, when I look at fighters that are like that, always take the advantages and stuff like that, and then when they finally get to that, what I dub as the mirror match, that's when everything is pretty much even, or the technical part goes to the computer, because the computer runs the algorithm and you're playing against the computer. So the actual final edge is the mirror match. The edge actually goes to the computer. You got to beat that. You feel what I'm saying? You got to be loose and, undo, play in a freestyle type of way that actually breaks the computer's algorithm down so you can beat it. So, does Devin Haney, does Shakur Stevenson, when I was in a debate saying, listen, if Shakur really, really want to make noise at 140, I would have went up there and fought Matias because they do have a more of a history of beefing about fighting, in my opinion, because that whole Twitter spat, and then you claiming that you only want to fight people that you never sparred, and then you were like, no, I'll spar him. And then when the question came down again to double down on it, it's like, no, I'm a 135 pounder. I'm not going to 140. But you're going to 140 a year later to fight Teofimo Lopez, and Matias is still there.
Yeah, but he was flirting with going up there for Conor Ben, so it's selective. And plus, Liam Paro was already at welterweight. I'm like, Liam Paro, I'm like, man, that, and so Liam Paro beat Sabril Matias. I'm like, some of these people gotta be kicking themselves in the butt because it's like, it's like, dang, why did not, like, if the skills pay the bills, you know what I'm saying? What's the holdup?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, I ain't want to keep this one long, man, because I'm gonna be more consistent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but,
for sure. But it was a great cook though.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming through, man, chopping it up.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't get my turkey impersonation. You know what I'm saying? But
for sure, man.
But yeah, man, you have a good evening, man. I appreciate you coming through, brother. You got anything you want to close out with?
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what Boots looks like at 54. The Brian Norman versus Boots fight coming up this November. Salute to you, Dev. Bro, this is big. This is big right here because you pull it off. You got some names that people can't deny. So, I don't know, bro. If you've seen something that nobody else seen and you could pull it off, good luck to you. But on this one, brother, man, I rocks with you hard body. But I'm like Adrian right now. You just can't win. And that's where I end it off, bro.
All right, man. Salute, brother.
Salute.
All right, peace. And I did mean to tell you, AC, that I did see that thing with I did see that February thing with Brian with Devin and David Benavidez. But I think that was more of a, if I had to guess, that was more of a way to try to divert some attention, because I'm like, neither one of these guys, Devin can't afford to look past Brian Norman, and as much as everybody be saying David Benavidez is just gonna smack the crap out of Anthony Yard, David Benavidez can't afford to look past Anthony Yard, right? Regardless of the outcomes, neither one of these guys can afford to look past the guys that they're facing right now and thinking about February. But I did see that, and I was curious because it's a teaser. It was a cliffhanger. You know what I'm saying? So, but all in all, man, I want everybody to know that, man, in boxing conversations, man, don't become temporarily don't become the fans that you despise just to defend your guy. Like, because all we gotta do is, put the shoe on the other foot. Or like I said in this one, when I said what if, I was like, what if B Norm was moving like Boots? Like, if that was the case, then, man, Brian Norman would have got crucified. Like, he would still be getting crucified. So I'm like, don't become the fan that you despise just to defend your guys. Like, especially if you all aggressive and you like calling people out and you know, being overly critical of everybody else. When somebody else be overly critical of your fighter, you know what I'm saying? Don't become the fan base that you despise. Anyways, there's a lot going on in boxing, man. Watch out for Captain Obvious, man. He's been acting weird lately. But I appreciate everybody who came through and popped up for your boy, man. I was actually surprised. I'm like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up, man. But hopefully you got something to put in your rucksack to march on with. You know, maybe you had a laugh. Maybe you had some critical thinking. You know, I don't always believe that my opinions, you know, can't be challenged. You know, that I can't be wrong. You know, and I do admit when I am wrong. But this is Fruits and Veggies, not that Reggie. This is fact-based content, not opinion-based. Silence is consent, meaning that we speak to things. Because all it takes for evil to prevail is for grown men and women to remain silent. So we speak to things. We call things out. We challenge things. A lot of the times, when somebody when somebody put my favorite fighter up in the crosshairs, or a fighter I rock with up in the crosshairs, I learned something. I learned whether I'm gonna be 100 about it, or if I'm gonna critically analyze, or I'm gonna break it down the way it needs. And so a lot of the things that happen when people gauge in the fighters that I like, you know, or the styles that I like, I take and use those same scenarios and put their fighters up. And a lot of times they don't line up. You know what I'm saying? That's how I catch a lot of fallacies in people's arguments. You know, but this is all good boxing talk, man. That's all it really is, man. We all have an abusive relationship with boxing, where we say we're gonna leave, or we don't like it, and we hate it, and we wish this could change, but we ain't going nowhere. We are not going anywhere. Anyways, y'all, look out for Brian Norman, man. I think that the man is on his way. I admire what his father was able to do with him, and I appreciate a Brian Norman, you know, along with, you know, an Abdullah Mason. You know, I'm starting to like the guy Scooter Davis as well, like, because it's the mindset. It's like what they're saying and how they're moving and how they're acting. You know what I'm saying? Which is going to, you know, it's going to further the sport. But anyways, thanks for choosing Bodywork Boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.
He didn't want to box. He wanted to actually prove that he could punch with you. He was like, what the fuck is this nigga? Right. Oh, okay. You want to go to sleep. You tired.
Welcome to Bodywork.